It started with the door. I know that sounds cliché, like one of those old horror movies where something is lurking in the basement. But I promise you, this is different, because what happened wasn't just about what was behind the door. It was about the way it made me feel. It was like the door was alive and somehow it knew me. I moved into the house 6 months ago, right after my divorce. I needed a fresh start, a quiet place where I could get my life together. The house was perfect, or so I thought. It was an old Victorian style home, a bit run down but full of character. The kind of house you'd find in a cozy neighborhood with creaky floorboards and drafty windows, where the walls seemed to hold memories of the past. I was so focused on getting settled that I didn't think much of the basement. It wasn't unusual for houses that old to have a basement, but I noticed something strange about it right away. The door was heavy, thicker than any other door in the house, and the lock, it was an old-fashioned bolt, like something you'd use to keep something inside, not outside. For the first few weeks, I didn't touch it. I didn't even think about it. I had enough to deal with, unpacking, adjusting to my new job, trying to figure out what my life looked like as a single guy again. But late at night, when the house was quiet, I would find myself listening to the creaks and groans of the house, trying to convince myself they were just normal house noises. Except, every now and then, I'd hear something different. It was faint at first, barely a sound at all, like something brushing against the walls beneath me. At first, I thought it was just the wind, or maybe a raccoon that had found its way into the crawlspace. But it wasn't the wind, and there was no crawlspace. One night, around 2 a.m., I was lying in bed, unable to sleep. The house was dead silent, except for that noise. It was louder now, unmistakable. Something was moving downstairs. I sat up, listening, and felt my heart race as I heard it again. A slow, deliberate sound, like someone dragging their fingertips along the walls of the basement. I told myself not to be ridiculous. It was probably just the house settling, I thought, or maybe a pipe. I forced myself to relax and eventually drifted off to sleep. But it didn't stop. Over the next few days, the noise became more frequent. I started avoiding the basement door altogether, not because I was scared, I told myself, but because I was busy. Still, it was hard to ignore the way it made me feel. Every time I walked past that door, I got a chill, like something was watching me from the other side. Then one night, I couldn't take it anymore. It was around midnight when I heard it again. This time, it wasn't just a faint noise. It was louder, like something was pressing up against the other side of the door, scratching at the wood. My heart pounded in my chest, and before I knew what I was doing, I was standing in front of the basement door, hand hovering over the lock. I hesitated. For a moment, I considered walking away, going back to bed, pretending like I hadn't heard anything at all. But my curiosity, or maybe my stupidity, got the better of me. I unlocked the door. As soon as the bolt slid back, I felt the temperature drop. A gust of cold air hit me in the face, making the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I pulled the door open slowly, my hand shaking, and stared down the dark staircase that led into the basement. At first, I saw nothing, just blackness. I fumbled for the light switch, flipping it on with a soft click. The bulb hanging from the ceiling flickered to life, casting long, eerie shadows across the room. The basement was empty, just a few boxes and an old washer and dryer. There was no sign of anything unusual, no signs of anyone or anything having been down there. I let out a shaky breath, relieved. It was nothing. My mind was playing tricks on me. I laughed at myself, embarrassed that I had been so paranoid. But just as I was about to close the door, I heard it. A whisper. A whisper. It was faint, almost too quiet to hear, but it was there. A voice, low and rasping, coming from somewhere in the basement. Help me. I froze. My blood turned to ice as I strained to listen. Help me. The voice was clearer now, like someone was standing just at the edge of the light, hidden in the shadows. It sounded desperate, pleading. I stood there, heart racing, unsure of what to do. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, to lock the door and never go down there again. But something kept me there, rooted to the spot. Please, help me. Against my better judgment, I stepped onto the first stair, the wood creaking under my weight. The air was thick, oppressive, and I felt like I was suffocating as I descended the stairs, one by one. The light from the bulb overhead grew dimmer the farther I went, until I was standing at the bottom, surrounded by darkness. "Where are you?" I whispered, my voice shaking. For a moment, there was nothing, just silence. Then, the voice came again, closer this time, so close I could feel the breath on the back of my neck. "I'm here." I spun around, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest, but there was no one there, just the empty basement. I backed away, my hand searching for the railing, when I felt something brush against my arm. I gasped, stumbling back into the wall, my eyes darting around the room, but there was nothing, no one. The whisper came again, louder, more insistent. "Help me!" I ran. I bolted up the stairs, slamming the door shut behind me and locking it. My heart was racing, my skin slick with sweat. I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath, my mind racing. I didn't know what I had just heard, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going back down there. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on anything other than that voice. I tried to convince myself that I had imagined it, that it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was down there, waiting for me. And then, things got worse. One night, I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. At first, I thought I was dreaming. But when I opened my eyes, I saw the door was wide open, and the air in the room was ice cold. I sat up, my heart racing, and that's when I heard it again. The whisper. "Help me." It was coming from inside my room. I scrambled out of bed, turning on every light in the house, but there was no one there. I was alone. Or at least, I thought I was. The whispers continued night after night, growing louder, more desperate. I could feel it, whatever it was, getting closer. It wasn't just in the basement anymore. It was everywhere, in the walls, in the floors, in the air around me. I could feel it watching me, waiting for me to make a move. And then, one night, it happened. I woke up in the middle of the night to find the basement door wide open. The lock had been broken, the bolt twisted and bent. I stood there, staring at the open door, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I shouldn't go down there. I knew something was waiting for me, but I couldn't help myself. I grabbed a flashlight and slowly made my way down the stairs, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The air was colder than before, and the light from my flashlight barely pierced the darkness. I reached the bottom of the stairs and swept the beam of light across the room. At first, I didn't see anything, just the same old boxes and appliances. But then, in the far corner of the room, something moved. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The flashlight flickered, and for a split second I saw it, a figure huddled in the corner, its face hidden in shadow. "Help me," it whispered. I took a step closer, my legs shaking. Who are you?" I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. The figure didn't move. It just sat there, rocking back and forth, its voice growing softer, more broken. "Please, help me." I took another step, raising the flashlight higher, and that's when I saw it. The figure wasn't human. It was something else, something twisted and wrong. Its skin was pale and stretched tight over its bones, its limbs long and unnatural. Its eyes, if you could call them that, were nothing more than empty, black voids staring straight through me. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight, and the basement was plunged into darkness. The last thing I heard before I ran was the sound of that voice echoing in the blackness. "Help me." I don't know how I made it out of the house. I don't remember driving away or where I went. All I know is that I never went back. I couldn't. The house was sold a few months later, but I never heard what happened to the new owners. I don't want to know. Because sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying in bed, I can still hear it. Help me. And I know one day it will find me again.